get on the ball.
All right.
Hop upon the ball.
Here's the ball.
And you're on it.
I'm on it.
Good. Are you standing on the ball, or are you like walking upon the ball like a circus performer?
I'm like a seal. I'm sort of like leaning on the ball.
You're under the ball.
I'm leaning on the ball with my top half, like my feet are on.
Is that what seals do? I always thought seals like got the ball up on their snout.
Seals can do whatever they want, man. They're just they're versatile creatures.
Seals can do whatever they want, man.
They're free to roam. I don't know.
Okay, seals can do whatever they want,
do whatever
man.
they want. That's right.
Quote Brian Goulet.
# freedom seals.
If you say so, and you and your freedom seals.
All right. Hey, everybody. It is episode 28 of the Goulet Pencast. I forgot how to do this whole intro thing. Fountain pens are still a thing where we are. I am Brian Goulet.
I am Drew Brown.
And I can't read my own script. We are here from Goulet Pens, though, to deliver this casual and informal, tangential and extraneous, superfluous and extemporaneous fountain pen show, where we talk about what's going on at Goulet Pen Company and in our fountain pen lives. In today's show, once we remember how to do this, we're going to talk about lots of nitty-gritty pen talk about feeds and ultrasonic cleaners and nibs and all kinds of other little parts, as well as all the shenanigans that we've been up to in the last 3 weeks, and there have been plenty. So, as we ease into things, we'll start off with our first segment of feedback. And Drew, we got some.
That's right.
We got some feedback. You want to kick us off?
We got a little bit of feedback, yeah.
Yeah.
Let me just say that we're thrilled to be back. Thank you so much for waiting on us for the last couple of weeks. We didn't intend to be out as long as we did, but we were, and thank you for sticking with us. We're happy to be back. Hopefully you're happy to be back here as well, joining us. So last time we spoke, Brian, we approached the topic of the seemingly random metal star attached to people's houses
Yes.
for decoration purposes.
Yes.
And we got a ton of feedback about this mystery star. So the overwhelming feedback was in regards to it originating in the Lone Star state of Texas. We had folks saying that, hey, yes, it's been a thing here in Texas for 40 years, but it definitely has not stayed in Texas. So whether or not Texas natives or, people with Texas lineage have decided to adorn their homes with it across the United States, we won't know, but it definitely has been confirmed in the YouTube comment section that these stars on people's houses are up in Washington State, all the way up in Maine, and of course, all over Texas as well. And there were also a few comments about how historically there were these things called barn stars, which were shaped like stars that were technically a hex to bring good luck that the Pennsylvania Dutch and potentially Amish folks did back in the day. So maybe that is where it originated. Some folks thought that it was to honor veterans or denote former or current military service or support. But either way, definitely a big Texas thing and definitely everywhere now.
Okay. And what's interesting is like people are like, oh yeah, we had that and it means this. And other people are like, no, we have it and it means this. It's like,
yeah.
Oh, so nobody really knows, but everybody thinks that they understand what it's about. So it's one of these like kind of randomly adopted multi-meaning kind of things. So interesting.
Yep.
Oh.
It's everywhere though.
All right.
That's for sure.
Good stuff. Well, we also got from Funhouse RX asked, what is Goulet cranking up with that sound system? I'm very curious. So I mentioned that I'm kind of going back to my high school and college roots with my car audio stuff. I don't know, man. It's not really going down a new rabbit hole. It's sort of revisiting an old rabbit hole, I guess. So I'm very familiar with a lot of this stuff, but it's been a while since I've looked into it. So it's kind of fun to revisit, not like unlike you, Drew, with like the videos from the 80s and stuff like that. Like these are all movies you've seen. You're just like rediscovering them. That's sort of what I'm doing. So I read this question as like, what is my sound system turning out to be? And Drew read it as, what kind of music am I listening to? Both of which are kind of boring and random. So I can get into as much or as little of that as we want. Maybe I'll save some of the details of the system for later in the Pencast so that the people that truly have gotten involved in something more productive and are just listening to us in the background can just kind of have that on and sort of pay attention to it. Or if you're really interested in it, it'll make you want to listen to the rest of it. I don't know. But as far as like the actual music that I listen to, half the time I'm driving my kids around and I'm listening to basically video game music because Joseph wants to listen to basically that. And Ellie pretty much too. She used to exclusively pretty much listen to Kids Bop, which is like kids singing pop songs, which is also kind of weird because some of the lyrics I'm like, it's not like explicit lyrics, but it's definitely suggestive. And I'm like, just hearing kids singing about being in relationships and stuff like that just feels a little weird, but she loves it and so be it. And then, Joseph exclusively listens to Nintendo and Sonic and Kirby theme songs basically, which is cool because it's pretty decent music.
Not a lot of bass in there though.
Not most of them. So with me, I'm kind of all over the map. My tastes have always been very eclectic, but mostly with the new sound system complete, I just listen to bass, just whatever has a lot of loud bass. So I'm pretty much revisiting a lot of my old classics, like hip hop type stuff and very bassy, some electronic stuff, random things.
What is the appeal of that for you?
For me, it just vibrates my body and it.
But why is that? How is that enjoyable?
I don't know, man. It just is. Like, it just feels really cool. I don't know what to say.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know. Yeah. And like when you're listening to like rock music and stuff like that, and like the double bass drum is just like, and it's like hitting in your chest. It's an experience. You actually feel the music. So I don't know. It's pretty cool. But like I talked to Rachel about it for 4 seconds and she rolls her eyes and is not interested. I don't know if she's ever been less interested in something else that I've done. It's the puzzles too. She's not super into. She's the arbor, the tree work stuff. Yeah, she's not interested in any of that either. But she's not interested in most of the stuff I'm interested in now that I talk about it. Anyway, so there you go. My musical tastes are all over the place, and it's I have a few favorites, but I'm still searching, still finding. So if you have any suggestions, let me know in the comments. Good
something that'll punch him in the chest.
Good bassy music. Yeah, cool. All right, let's talk about some new stuff, shall we? To be quite honest with you, this is kind of our slower time because right around the holidays, a lot of our suppliers are taking time off. Most of the manufacturers have, released things for the holiday season and they're kind of taking a break. So we don't have a whole ton of new products. We have some that are kind of on the horizon, but we'll be able to talk about those in future weeks. I think we all need to get our credit card bills and recover from them from the holidays before we get amped up about new stuff. But we have some new videos and stuff that we've done, which were kind of fun. So Drew and I recorded some and published them, last week on the top pens of 2021, as well as the top inks of 2021. And we deviated a bit from the past where we have not wanted to rank anything and we just leaned hard into it and we ranked things. So that was kind of fun. Of course, it's all made up anyway, but it was pretty fun. And one little fun fact, we did get a number of comments about the hottest pens of 2021 and how animated that I seemed to be in that one, which we have had comments on in this Pencast before, where I thought that they were commenting on Drew's faces, but it was actually mine. Part of the reason why I'm so overly animated is because we actually recorded at least the first half of that one twice because Drew had a technical issue and basically had no audio and no video too. I think we had issues with both things. So basically we couldn't use any of his footage. So we had to record the entire thing again. And so I was already familiar with everything Drew was going to say. So I was able to have very timely reactions to everything that he was saying. And so that was kind of fun. Plus I was just in a punchy mood and I was wearing sweaters and I was really hot. Which I'm wearing a sweater today with a long sleeve shirt underneath, kind of a bold move, but there's actively like snow and ice on the ground. So I'm thinking maybe I'll be okay today, but we'll see. And then another fun video that we got published this week, a shorty, are fountain pens easy to use? Drew did a great job with this one, gotta say. So we're trying to produce some that are not like super, super deep technical fountain pen things, but are a little broader so that it can like welcome newer people, especially on YouTube, into the fold. So we're trying out some of those videos and this was one of those. So yeah, it was something that maybe you can share with anybody that is kind of newer to pens, and it's kind of fun. So yeah, that's what I got to say. How about you, Drew?
Yeah. Well, as some of our listeners, viewers know, we have a Teespring, or actually spring.com now, formerly Teespring. It's now just Spring. We have a shop that has some t-shirts and some stickers on it that isn't sold through our store, so you kind of have to go through a separate thing. And honestly, there are very few pieces of merch on that website that we have actually got in our hands, but it's definitely a thing. And we have a turkey hammock Pencast sticker for anybody who knows where that bizarre inside joke came from. And we will be adding 2 more stickers to the store this week. One is a new Pencast logo, or at least a draft proposed Pencast logo. We haven't really done anything with it, but it'll be a sticker at least for the time being, unless we figure out we like something else better. But we will be adding that to the store, and then we will also be adding a Barney the Barnacle sticker to the store. So if you've been listening to us for a little while, you no doubt have heard us reference the crusty ink, or the ink crustaceans that appear on your nib if you're using like a brownish orangey reddy color usually. And ink crustaceans kind of gave way to Brian calling it an ink barnacle, and then he called it Barney. So then we've just been referring to ink crust as Barney the Barnacle. And our friend Caitlin Swigart, who has written into the show a couple times now, drafted up a little cute design that I was like, hey, we could make a sticker out of this. Thank you, Caitlin, for that. And a few edits later, and it's available to purchase now and adorn your water bottle or laptop, wherever you think barnacles need to be. So that's up there, and if you want it, you can get it.
And it's probably one of the cutest versions of a barnacle that you could make, because they're actually quite ugly in real life.
Oh, absolutely.
So we did the best of what we could, but it's still kind of ugly looking. But it's a cute kind of ugly. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a barnacle,
like a pug or a chihuahua. It's like a cute ugly.
Yeah, that's exactly true.
Yeah. Okay, good stuff. All right, we have some Q&A for you all, and we said, you know what? We could try to shoot a shorter Pencast, but I'm sure y'all have missed us the last couple of weeks, so we're just going to do a whole bunch. So we're going to do a bunch of questions and not really hold back. And then we have a lot of personal stuff to talk about too, so we're probably going to go long like we always do. But we're not even going to try to shorten it, because we always say that we're going to try and then we don't at all. So who knows what's going to happen today. But we'll start off with some Q&A. And Drew's got the first couple of questions, I guess, similarly themed.
Yeah. These were kind of, these questions teamed up a little bit. So a couple of, these are all kind of long form questions too. So our answers will be on brand.
Maybe the longer the question, the shorter the answer. No, that's not.
Oh, I'm sure that'll be the case.
How it works with me. No way.
All right, so we've got a little bit of a two-parter here, and I'll combine them both. So the first question is from Eric. Potential question for future Pencast. Are the feed ink channels the same or different widths as they come out of the factory across the spectrum from extra fine to stub nibs? I'm wondering whether or not the tip nib width, extra fine to stub, is the only factor in the line width that a pen will put down, or whether the feed contributes through optimized channel width, as it might have implications if you are trying to swap one from nib to tip while another keeping the same feed. Basically, he's wondering, does the ink channel in the feed differ from nib size?
Does it differ, and if it differs, does it matter? Like, how much does that play into the line width, right?
And then in addition to that, Zahir asks us, could you please advise how I can understand my TWSBI Eco, whether or not it has an extra fine medium nib? My Eco has a B written inside the feed and not the nib. What does it mean? So
how about that?
So why is there a B on his feed, Brian? And does the ink channel feed differ from nib to nib?
Okay, we have a few things to talk about here, don't we?
Feed us, Brian.
Okay. Well, I'll start out with Eric's question at the beginning here. The feed channels, and do they differ, and does that matter? Like with most fountain pen things, the answer is it depends. So TWSBI, we know, has told us that they do use feeds with different ink channel widths, dimensions, whatever you want to call it. I don't know if it's a width thing or a depth thing, but basically they have different feeds with different degrees of flow that will accommodate thinner or broader nibs. Now, what I don't know is exactly how many feeds they have. Is it a different feed for every nib size? I don't think so. If I remember correctly, and I did not super validate this, but this is my understanding from several years ago of a conversation I had with Philip from TWSBI. I think there's two. I think there's one for extra fine and fines, and there's one for medium and above. But this was a while ago. Maybe they've changed it. Maybe I was just wrong and misunderstood. I don't know. But I do know that TWSBI has said that they have different feed flow, basically, for broader and finer nibs. Now, the thing that's a little confusing is you don't exactly know which is which. So I get where Zahir's going for is there some kind of notation on the feed that says if the company does distinguish it, specifically asking here about TWSBI, right? So we know TWSBI distinguishes between some of their nibs, how the feeds match up. Zahir is asking, is there like a feed size indicator, just like there is on a nib? Like you can tell what nib, size it is by what's indicated on it. Is it the same way with these feeds? So it seemed like maybe, because the first couple of pens that I checked, I have a lot of broads. I have a lot of broad TWSBIs because those are generally the least popular. And so that's usually the one I keep for myself because everybody else wants the other nib sizes. And I'm like, well,
they're usually Rachel's favorite too, right?
Yeah, it is Rachel's favorite as well. So that's a lot of what we have around the Goulet house here is a lot of broad TWSBIs, but I have some other ones too. So there were some of the broad TWSBIs that I have that have a feed that has a B stamped in it. And it's like, oh, is that B for broad? And then I found one that has a number 1 on it and one that has a number 2. Another one was blank and another one had an A. So I was like, what is going on? And it was across different models, different nib sizes. So I think that it doesn't actually match up like you would have on a nib. So if you have a broad nib, it's going to have a B on it, right? So you're going to be able to know that that's what nib size is. I don't think it's that way with feeds. If a company distinguishes at all, I don't think they're having an end user kind of notifiable way to tell. And Philip even told me on the phone, like when you are looking at these feeds, the ones that are maybe designed for an extra fine versus a broader, you can't actually look at the feed, even if you look at the channel. Even like under a microscope with the naked eye, it's really, really hard to tell the difference because it's such a minimal difference in flow that you really can't even see it very well with the naked eye. So if you even know what you're looking for. So I can't even like pick up a feed and tell you what it's intended for. Now, does that even matter, honestly? I mean, I trust that TWSBI has done some tests, and I don't think that they would do it if it didn't matter at all. Does it matter with all brands and all scenarios? I would say probably not as much as you might think. So Drew, you and I know with some other brands, when we've had, spare nibs, spare feeds, things like that we've either sold or gotten, as a supply for replacement under various scenarios, there has been basically one stock feed that services a whole range of different nibs. That's more common, I would say. And if there are other brands that are doing feeds that are specifically catered to given nib sizes, it is not known to us or communicated to us or notated in any way on the feed. Other than TWSBI, I don't have specific knowledge that they are, unique to every pen. Now, Aurora, on their pens, their gold nib pens, they actually have the feed stamped with the nib size instead of the nib. So I don't know if the feed is different, but we know that the feed is paired up to that nib, and as a nib unit, it is then notated on the feed. But I don't know if that means that that feed is any different than, if you have a broad Aurora 14 karat nib, could you put that feed on an extra fine and would it write wetter or something? I don't really know. So we haven't fully tested it and stuff like that. But so basically, I think the advantage to doing the whole different feed channel thing, it's sort of like the feed is your like supply, right? So you think about like, I don't know, I'm thinking of flow, like water, because ink is basically water, right? So you're dealing with flow. Your pipes in your house, right, are flowing water. At least in America, your typical water flow is about 5 gallons a minute, right? Well, when you take a shower or you wash your hands, you're not necessarily flowing 5 gallons a minute of water out of there, right? It's going to be restricted at whatever the faucet or whatever the pipe, wherever it is that you're demanding the water, that's how much is flowing. But there is 5 gallons per minute available. So when you think of the feed and how much can flow through that feed, you can't flow any more than that feed is physically capable of funneling through there. So the capillary action will draw it in. So if you have something like a flex nib or something like a really, really broad, really wet nib that's demanding a lot of ink flow, you need to have a really wide ink channel so that you have that flow available. But if you have that flow available, does that mean that it's forcing more ink through if you have a finer nib or a tighter, tines or something like that? I don't necessarily think so. I think it's more just that ink is available and there and ready for you. So in terms of how much having one universal feed actually matters, as long as it's, basically wide enough and wet enough to accommodate the most demanding ink situations, I think that is really what matters the most. And then it's the tines, the spacing of the tines, the grind, and the alignment of the nib. That's really what controls it more. Just like your faucet, your sink faucet, the faucet itself is going to restrict how much water is actually coming through there. There's more in the pipe that's available, but it doesn't mean that there's 5 gallons a minute dumping out of your sink faucet, right? So I think that's more or less, it's different because your pipes are pressurized and ink is just flowing through with capillary action. So it's maybe not the exact analogy, but you get the general idea. I think if you had too restricted of an ink flow, then when you write with something that, is demanding more, you're going to end up with skipping and railroading and these types of things. As you would know if you've tried to use a flex nib on a feed that is just not quite able to keep up with it, you need to use a wetter flowing ink to maybe make up for that a little bit. But you basically need a wet feed. That's why if you look at the Noodler's Ebonite feeds, they've got a fat channel. I mean, you can just like drive a truck through that thing because it demands a ton of ink. But you can put a number 6 nib and use that feed, and it's not like it's still dumping out the same amount of ink. It's more restricted. So you see where I'm getting with that. I think probably with TWSBI, where they're getting at with it, if you have a wider ink channel in your feed and it has a lot of ink that's available and you have a really fine nib, then it's not necessarily that it's going to like force that ink through, because it's more just like drawing it through naturally, and then the nib itself is going to restrict that. But I imagine probably when you have a pen like a TWSBI that has a very large ink capacity, perhaps there is more of a situation where you can end up with burping or gushing or these types of reactions when there's a very large reservoir for ink, especially when you get down to very little ink and there's a lot of air in that pen. If you have a really wide ink channel, there's more opportunity for things to kind of burp and gush out of there. If you have too much ink that's kind of just like sitting there at the ready, saturated in that feed. Not in all situations, but it could be the kind of thing where maybe that's why they did it. But I don't think it's because like it's massively performing different, because other brands I know, like Lamy with their steel nibs, I think they're all the same. I don't think other brands are doing it, and it's not like it's a night and day difference across all pens. I think it's a proactive thing that TWSBI does, especially because they have those higher ink capacity pens, which you don't have on most other pens that would be comparable to a TWSBI. Most of them are going to be cartridge converter, smaller ink volume, and you're not going to have those burping issues. So I think there's some additional things that TWSBI's done there. But ultimately, if you have a feed that has a fin system, and we have a question about this later, so I'm planting a little thread here. But if you have a feed that has fins in it, that has kind of a reservoir of ink that it holds, then the actual volume of the ink chamber, or the ink channel coming from the ink chamber, is a little less critical, because then, unless you're like maximally demanding, ink all day long from that pen, because it's going to hold a lot of ink right in those fins, right up underneath the nib. And then when you have those moments where you're writing with more pressure or more speed or whatever, that's really where the ink is going to draw from. It doesn't come all the way back from the ink chamber. So as long as it's flowing enough to be able to fill up the reservoir there, and then you're able to write and it's generally able to keep up, you're going to be just fine. And I think as long as the balance between the air that's able to come in to the feed through the filler hole and the ink channel that the ink is traveling down, as long as those two are matched, you're going to be generally okay. As far as how wide of a range you have, depending on the different nib size, I don't know. There's probably some science to it that's just beyond my understanding and beyond, frankly, what any manufacturer has shared with us. But I think the main takeaway as a pen user is basically it doesn't really matter and shouldn't make any like buying decision for you one way or another of who matches their feeds to nibs and blah, blah, blah. Just trust that like that's what they do. That's their job. It's their job to figure out all the physics behind how that stuff works. And it should just work. And then you should write with it. And if you enjoy it, then who cares? But one caveat, if you're going to be swapping your nibs, right? As a general rule, it's not a bad idea to keep your feed paired with the given nib, especially with a TWSBI, but maybe just as a general rule, it's a pretty good practice, to do it anyway. Just keep the feed and the nib together. If I'm talking physically pulling the nib and feed out like a TWSBI Eco, for example. If you have an Eco, there is no swappable nib unit because it's all attached to the pen. So if you're going to be pulling the nib and feed out, just take the whole thing and pair it together and swap. If you swap it from another Eco, just keep those paired together and then you don't have to worry about it. But if you mix them up and get them all mixed up, I don't know that you'd really be able to tell the difference between them. See, I have this Eco here. This is the Eco J. This is a pretty newer one. There is no notation of any letter, number, or anything on this one. But this, let's see here, this Navy 580 ALR, what does it say? No notation on that one at all. So maybe it's a newer thing. I don't know. It's probably a batch thing, honestly. Oh, okay. So this Prussian blue, this has a number 2 on it. Don't know why. Go figure. But anyway.
And you found these across different nib sizes as well. So it's not like the B's were broads and the ones were fine or anything like that. It was different, no pattern at all.
Not only different like tip sizes, but different whole nib sizes. Like this VAC 700 Iris, this has a number 1 on the back of its feed. And it's an entirely different feed than the other pens because the nib is a completely actual different size. Mm-hmm. But, as I'm looking across different pens, the 580 is a different nib than the Eco as well. This one has a 1 on the back of its feed, this ALR.
Yeah. And you'll find other feeds made by other manufacturers that have random numbers on them as well. Mm-hmm. It's not a super uncommon thing. Yeah. And it, like Brian said, it's probably a batch related thing. Yeah.
But definitely, I don't know any brand other than Aurora where you can look at the feed and anything that's noted on it and tell anything about its nib size. So basically you need to look at the nib itself because it will have some indication on it. Again, Aurora being the exception. Whew. Wow, that was really boring. Sorry. I was like boring myself, but I still had more things to say about it. So there you go. Was that enough, Drew? Did you?
I still do think that even with TWSBI's very affordable price range, they're going an extra mile, at least in some cases, to pair their feeds with their nibs. I think that's really unique, and there might be others that do it, but we know TWSBI does it in some cases at least, and I think that's really cool to know.
TWSBI basically doesn't do anything by accident. They are some of the most intentional designers I've ever seen.
And that continues to blow my mind. I mean, it would blow my mind if any manufacturer had that level of intentionality, but it blows my mind even further because of how affordable these pens continue to be.
Yeah. It's crazy. Very special company.
Yeah.
All right. Woo. Let me recover here. I'm going to let Drew answer some.
Yeah, give me one.
All right. This question is from James. What are some of the best pens for shimmering inks, both in terms of getting the ink to look its best on paper and for pen maintenance? We'll start with that, and then we have another kind of follow-up question, but we'll stick with that for now.
All right. Pardon me, James. James, For shimmer ink, I would pick something that disassembles easily. Going back to what Brian said about like a broad TWSBI, that is, if that does indeed have a wider ink channel and has the nozzle, the faucet of the pen is going to be a broad, so you're going to get more flow. That shimmer ink is going to move faster. It's going to stay working, stay moving. It's not going to have as much time to kind of stagnate and settle. And with a TWSBI, it's clear, and generally the grip section is also clear, so you're going to notice when your shimmering particles do begin to settle. And if you see, things beginning to, collect, you can give it a little bit of a twist in your hand, nothing too vicious because you don't want ink splattering everywhere, but you can see it and okay, it's time for me to agitate the shimmer a little bit because boom, it's right there in front of my face.
All right.
The one downside is that,
sorry to stop you there. Your personal opinion, how do you feel about clear grips? Do you like when you can see all the stuff that's built up in there? Because you're like, oh, I can clean that out. I know it's really good. But then you see it in there and you feel like you have to clean it. Even if it's not a flow issue or anything, you're like, I have to thoroughly clean this thing every time I use it.
That is a great question.
How do you feel about that?
I like them if I can clean them out. Now, if we're talking Pilot Custom 74, I have no patience for that baloney. That is unacceptable, and I don't even want to talk about it anymore.
That pen trolls you. It's like, no, I have a secret hidden layer that you can't get to that'll soak up ink and never let it go.
And no offense to the Custom 74, it's a great pen. And if like, one of my favorites, the E95S, if that had a clear grip section, I would hate it because I know there's lots of ink in here that I can't see because you can't disassemble the feed out of this one. So
there's got to be a lot of junk up in there.
I know there's some stuff.
Oh yeah.
But you know what? Hey, it's out of sight, out of mind. It doesn't matter. So I don't want to see it. I don't care if it's there. I don't want to see it. But with the TWSBI, you can completely disassemble those, which is why I would say consider a TWSBI for shimmer ink, because not only can you see it, but you can disassemble it really easily. TWSBIs are meant to be disassembled. However, the feed is a little fragile. We talked about fins earlier, and the fins on the TWSBI can collapse like a stack of dominoes if you are a little bit if your approach is not measured, I guess. It's recommended that you grip the nib and feed from the side and kind of gently wiggle those out, or else your fins are going to collapse. So you don't want to do that, but still, I maintain it's a good choice. Apart from TWSBI, you can also very easily disassemble pens from Monteverde, Conklin. They use pretty stock nib and feed situations that are really easy to disassemble and clean. So those are a good bet as well. Second question.
All right. This is from John S. I really enjoy the Pencast. Love the variety of topics on and off fountain pens. There's plenty of both of those. Here's a potential rabbit hole question on using a syringe to fill shimmering inks. Can you discuss which brands have finer or larger shimmering particulates? And since syringe needles come in different gauges, 14, 16, 18, etc., which gauge do you recommend?
I have a great answer about which gauge. Whatever one we sell, because we only sell one, it doesn't matter. The gauges don't matter. When you're talking about shimmer particles, you're talking about the tiniest little teeny little thing. It doesn't matter. Like no particle is large enough to have it be obstructed in any way based on the gauge of your.
I'm trying to
blunt tip syringe.
It has been many years since we have tested all these different gauge needles for our ink syringes. I want to say ours are 18 gauge, 18 or 20. I can't remember. The bigger the gauge, the smaller the hole, the opening. So like 14 gauge would be a much wider needle than an 18 gauge, etc. But bottom line is any gauge needle that you would use is going to be wider than the ink channel that the ink is flowing through. So no needle will impede the whatever particulate. And if it is,
I mean, there might be some sort
needle,
of like,
it's a problem.
Yeah, there might be some sort of medical needle that we don't know about that could potentially be smaller than an ink channel, but I've never seen one.
Maybe, but it would take you like a half an hour to fill your pen if it was that constricted.
Yeah, I mean, you think about it, blood is probably thicker than most of the inks that we sell. So
that I don't know, but I
don't know. I think they would all be pretty fine, John. So I will say that. And then regarding which brands have a finer, larger shimmering particulates, this information has not been disclosed to us. So we can't say for sure, okay, well, here's, Diatramentus uses this diameter, and honestly, even then it would differ from ink to ink. So I will just say that from my personal experience, I have found that they do fall in a little bit of an order for me as far as how their maintenance is achieved. So I will say that, again, based on my personal experience, Diamine and Robert Oster have a ton of shimmer. I can't say for sure whether or not the diameter of the shimmer is any larger, but they do have a ton of it, and it settles fairly fast. Very, very big on the shimmer scale. Those inks, shimmer-tastic, and they're all the shimmer there. But they will settle. So noticeably a ton of shimmer in those. No one's going to dispute that. Private Reserve, I put right under there. They have a ton of shimmer, but the shimmer is very dusty. It is less floaty and sparkly and more of a shimmer dust, and it stays right on top, very, very smudgy, but looks really, really awesome. It looks unlike any other shimmering ink. So I would say that, I'm pretty sure that the actual size of their shimmer is finer, but again,
it must be. Yeah, I think if it's if you're shaking, granted the volume of it can make a difference, but if it's settles down really quickly in the ink and it's super visible and you can see that it's almost kind of chunky looking, I'm thinking not quite Banu glitter pen, not quite that chunky, but sort of like that, as opposed to a diamond cast resin, right, which is going to be super, super fine.
And I would say that that's the case.
Yeah,
and I would say that that's the case with the Private Reserve ink. It's more of a powdery shimmer than a glittery shimmer.
The Urbon too, the 1670s, the 1780 or 90. Shoot, what number is it? Oh my gosh.
I think it's 1780.
1780. I'm forgetting my numbers.
Maybe. I don't know.
But the special Urbon inks, those to me are finer as well. So like Drew said, it's gonna have almost more of a sheen-like quality to it on the page because it's so fine. Whereas, it's gonna look very noticeably chunky glitter on the paper when you have the other ones that Drew mentioned, the Shimmertastic and the like.
Yeah. And below Private Reserve, I would put Diatramentus. So they also have shimmering inks. And I would say that they represent kind of the mid-level of shimmeriness in terms of actual display on the page and maintenance. They're kind of the middle of the road, a little bit easier to maintain than the other ones I mentioned. Yeah. And then, like Brian said, the Jacques Urbon inks are probably the easiest to maintain in my experience. They don't they don't overload the shimmer in those inks. There's enough to see, but not so much that if you're a little shy about trying shimmer because you don't want it to clog up your pen or get gunky. I mean, it's still going to be higher maintenance than an ink without shimmer for me for sure, but it's going to be less maintenance than something like Robert Oster or Diamine. Yeah. So if you are curious about it, start with Jacques Urbon. A lot of great colors and easier to maintain. Now, again, in my experience, you might have a different experience than mine. Pen, feed, ink, all these variables come into play and could change your experience. But this is what I think.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you, Drew.
Yeah.
All right. Now on to the next one.
Yeah, we got another beefy one here, Brian.
Yeah, we do. Sorry in advance. Another super boring answer.
That's okay. Michael says, Brian and Drew often talk about cleaning pens, but how about using an ultrasonic cleaner? Can that harm some kinds of pens? Mine has removed some old resistant ink very well. Well, that's good, Michael. I'm glad that works for you.
That's what it's supposed to do.
Yeah.
So this is something that people ask about. They've been asking about it for a long time. In fact, I bought our first company, ultrasonic cleaner. I don't know. I think before you were on board, Drew, over a decade.
It was here. It was in your garage when I started.
Because it was just one of those things that people were like, oh yeah, you should totally do this.
I was the first employee.
Yeah. So, I mean, especially before, because we came along, there was online pen shopping a little bit, but it was still very much like a pen show and brick and mortar centric kind of experience. A lot of people had vintage pens and stuff like that. So the ultrasonic thing was way more of a given back when we first kind of came onto the scene. And so a lot of people were asking about it. So I did get to experience it a bit for myself, and I've talked to a bunch of people over the years that have used them, talked to pen restorers and nibmeisters and stuff like that. So I would say, well, first I'll explain what they even are, right? So an ultrasonic cleaner, it's probably most familiar to people because it's used for cleaning jewelry. So if you go to a jeweler and you want to get your ring cleaned, whatever ring or thing cleaned, they're going to clean it in an ultrasonic cleaner. So they, put it in this bath, flip some switch, it makes like a buzzing sound. That is an ultrasonic cleaner. And you can buy these things to use personally, not just for pens, but you can clean your jewelry, you can clean all kinds of random things with it. So I'll explain sort of what it is and how it works. So ultrasonic cleaning in general, it's mostly kind of like an industrial tool. Like it's used for like cleaning medical devices and surgical tools. They use it for automotive and like aerospace parts. They clean electronic parts in the manufacturing process and things like that. It's not necessarily something that like most people have around their homes, though they make, small ones that are kind of made for home use. So it's they're cleaners that use high frequency sound waves transmitted through a liquid bath to clean whatever parts are immersed in the solution in that bath. So you're putting an object in a bath and it's actually creating sound waves in the fluid. So it's a little weird, right? So these sound waves are usually around 40 kilohertz, if that matters to you. And what they do...
Thank you. I was about to ask.
I know. And they agitate the water or whatever cleaning solution that these things are, causing the cavitation of solution molecules. And I had to look that up because I did not know what that meant. Basically, it's the implosion of microscopic bubbles that dislodge very tightly adhered contaminants. So if you have a really old pen and it's all crustified and there's just crust up in places and you can't do it, you're trying to flush it, you're trying to soak it, it's just not getting there.
Barnacles everywhere.
It sounds like science fiction-y, yeah. But it basically creates microscopic bubbles that when the bubbles implode, the vacuum pressure from these bubbles will actually help to dislodge things off the surfaces of whatever is in this bath. Isn't that crazy sounding?
They should call it the imploding bubble machine.
I think that would sound cooler, but ultrasonic does sound pretty cool.
They both sound pretty cool.
Yeah. So in very few situations in regular pen use is this absolutely necessary, because basically you're not getting your pen so nasty and crusted up that you need to go to that level. The big exception being if you're into vintage pens or restoring pens, you have a pen from your family member or friend or whoever, or you bought it at an antique store and it's evident that this thing was inked up 25 years ago and just left there. You might have some stuff in there, right? So that's where you would want to, maybe go to using this thing. But for the average person, especially if you're newer into pens and you're buying all your pens new, you're using them, even if you neglect them, most of the time you can soak them or clean them with a pen flush and not have to go as far as using an ultrasonic cleaner, and you'll be just fine. However, of course, you can use an ultrasonic cleaner if you want to expedite the process for cleaning up some of your old crusty pens, or certainly, like I mentioned, if you're getting into restoring older stuff. But I think that it's definitely not like as much of a given that you have to get this, especially because they end up being like $50 to $100, so it's like, it's not a no-brainer to get this tool. But if you get it and you have a very extensive collection and you're really, really getting into it, maybe it's kind of worth it. Or you get together with your local pen friends and one of you goes in on it, and every now and then when you need to, clean one of these things, somebody in your little group has one, right? Or if you have a local club or something, y'all can get on it, go in on it, whatever. As far as whether it'll do unintentional things, so that the drawback to using an ultrasonic cleaner is you can't really discriminate what parts of the pen that you're cleaning. Basically, you have to put it in the bath, and whatever's in the bath is getting cleaned all the same. So along the lines of, say, vintage pens, if you have vintage pens and you've got, a mixture of different materials happening in there, you got some old ink, but also you've got an old ink sac or something like that, it's very possible that when you go that thing in the bath, it's possible that if that ink sac was not in the best of condition, that ultrasonic cleaner could essentially dislodge that ink sac or tear the glue apart or tear the sac apart if it's, in any sort of a fragile state. So you're not able to like just clean out the grip of the pen on, especially some of these older pens, if they don't fully disassemble, you either need to, if you're in like a restoring kind of situation, you need to really kind of know what you're doing and know what can be soaked and what can't and so on. And that's where it gets to a level of expertise and beyond my knowledge, to be honest with you. But basically you can unintentionally clean or dislodge some things that you don't mean to. Or what can happen, I'm thinking a more practical, kind of a thing. Say you have, a cap like a TWSBI cap, right? Or a Pilot Custom 74 or something where it's got an insert. And say you got dried ink that's kind of like up around the lip of that insert or inside the cap insert, and you throw this whole cap in an ultrasonic cleaner, what's going to happen is that water is going to work its way behind that insert, and you're going to end up with inky water all up and behind that cap insert. And you got to take out that insert and you got to really get in there and kind of clean it out. So it's not like you just throw it in your ultrasonic cleaner, you pull it out and everything looks perfect. That ultrasonic cleaner, it's going to get in everywhere and get water everywhere. So it's not necessarily the end all be all solution. If you have some of that, honestly, sometimes taking like a wet cotton swab and kind of being a little more precision about it and just working at the areas where you've got some of that buildup, that can sometimes be a more effective way to clean it, unless you're trying to just like go nuclear on it. That's kind of what it is. The ultrasonic cleaner is kind of like your nuclear option for pen cleaning. So it's even talking to antique pen restorers and nibmeisters and stuff like that. That's pretty much when they use ultrasonic cleaners, is like the nuclear option. It's like, well, I've tried everything else and it's not working, or they have a lot of experience and they can just tell this thing is going to be a mess and I'm going to have to do a full restoration on it anyway. Let me dump it in to a full ultrasonic bath with pen flush basically and just go nuts on it for several hours, and that's certainly going to dislodge whatever's in there and maybe some other things, but I know I'm going to have to go fix those things anyway. So that's sort of when they do it. But for regular pen use on modern pens, you'll be just fine if you don't have an ultrasonic cleaner. In fact, the one that we have at the office, I don't know that we hardly ever use it because
very rarely.
Because honestly, just a regular cleaning gets the job done, even with things like shimmering inks. And, as much as I let my pens crust up and sit for 2 years or whatever, even that doesn't usually necessitate a ultrasonic cleaning, to be honest with you.
No. And I think a lot of nibmeisters, pen restoration professionals and such use them when a customer or client sends in a pen and their mold radar goes off. If there is actually some contaminants, then they're dealing with other people's pens. So generally they take it very seriously when they get some sort of contaminant in their shop. So that's another, like what Brian said, another nuclear option. Like, all right, they need to nip that in the bud because, God forbid they, somehow get another client's pen contaminated. That's like a big no-no. So they make sure that they do not spread the funk.
And in general, most of the modern fountain pen inks we have, the chemistry is pretty good on them. You're not dealing with crazy stuff. Some of the older inks, 25, 30, 40 years ago, they had some crazy stuff in them, and that stuff dries up in there. It's a whole different ballgame to clear those out. Or you have somebody that just basically never cleaned their pen and they would just ink it with the next inks. You end up with a mixture of inks that just built up over time with dust particles and paper fibers and all kinds of other junk that would cram up in the pen. You do that for a couple of decades, and then, ultrasonic cleaner will definitely help with that sort of thing. But anyway, it could be fun, if you have access to one and you have some really old pens that you're okay kind of experimenting with, try it out, because it is kind of cool and fun to when you really need it and it does actually work. It's pretty cool. But most of the time when I've tried to clean just my like regular pens with it, I'm like, it's more fuss to deal with the ultrasonic cleaner than it is to just flush it with a bulb syringe, or maybe like scrape the feed with a toothbrush or something, and that'll pretty much do the same job. Dude,
Toothbrush. I cannot say, Brian, I don't know why we don't sell a Goulet toothbrush, because everybody should have a toothbrush in their collection. For feeds, oh man. Yeah. Some pen flush, a paper towel, and a toothbrush, man. It'll take care of business.
You know what, Drew? Goulet
toothbrush?
No, I'm not. We're not selling toothbrushes. Like, just
Oh, come on, man. You got me all excited.
just use an old toothbrush. Everyone has old toothbrushes. Just hang on
Brian,
to them.
this is
Just
a-
don't
this-
throw
this
it
is
out.
a-
Just keep an old toothbrush.
This is a branding opportunity I'm giving you. All right.
Okay, yeah,
I'm gifting this to you, and you're just all right. You just
Okay.
wait. I'm gonna go rogue. There's gonna be a splinter company.
All right, let us know in the comments if y'all.
That's fine. No,
need,
the Goulet pen.
If y'all
No, the
need
Goulet
a
pen
Goulet
company.
toothbrush.
No, the Goulet toothbrush now because you
Goulet? Oh,
you shut me down,
You're
man.
just worming your
You
way
shut
into
me-
this thing, aren't you?
You shut me down. No, I'm gonna sell nothing but toothbrushes
Man,
for fountain
I'm
pens.
the one that brought up the toothbrush. You're just like totally riding on my coattails here. You're throwing your name on it.
It's going to be a toothbrush specifically designed for fountain pen feeds, but it's going to be exactly the same as
What does
any
that
other
even mean?
toothbrush.
What does that even mean? Yeah, right? Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yes. And yeah. Oh my goodness. You're too much, Drew. You're too much. Okay. Well, yeah, the toothbrush thing, I'll say.
Yeah.
Not only is that great for pens, so I have been keeping a toothbrush by our kitchen sink because I'm cleaning pens, and let's be honest, I neglect my pens as well as the next person. So I'm oft cleaning with pen flush and toothbrushes. I just kind of like leave the toothbrush there, and man, I'm like trying to clean some weird like dish or cup or something like that. You know, the kids have all these weird cups and crazy straws and all kinds of weird things with crevices. Man, I'll use the toothbrushes like to clean my dishes and stuff like that. It works great. All the crevices, like we have a garbage disposal and it's got like all the flaps for the garbage disposal. I don't want to get in there with my fingers. I'd grab a toothbrush, get in there, throw some dish soap on it, scrub a dub with a toothbrush. The
I also
toothbrush
still
has been
have,
like game changer for all cleaning things for me.
I also still have like baby bottle scrubbers.
Ooh, yeah, those are good.
Yeah, these will do the
Those are
job
good
too.
for those like fat, like reusable straws because we don't use disposable straws. The kids want to use straws all the freaking time. It's like just drink out of the dang cup. But no, they want like the short, squatty little, so easy to tip over cup, and they have this huge straw sticking out of it just for maximum like leverage for knocking it over.
No, we have a strict like if you're gonna use a funky straw, you're drinking water. I'm not dealing
Right?
with that.
Oh, those like twisty straws. I was like, those are so fun. The kids will love those. Yeah, they do.
Don't you dare put that in milk, boy.
Oh my gosh, those things are disgusting. Like, how do you clean those things?
If you put that in milk, it's disposable now. I'm sorry. It's gone. Like you can drink it. You can use it one time and then you're throwing it away. Like don't do that to me.
Orange juice in those things.
Oh, God.
Hot chocolate. Yeah, put hot chocolate in that thing.
No.
Try to clean that out. Good luck.
Oh no. Shut it down.
Oh my gosh, my kids are in the other room and they're gonna hear me shouting out hot chocolate and they're gonna ask for it. You watch. You watch. Rachel's probably dealing with that right now. All right, on to the next question. This is from Nova Gem Cutter. Pretty sure that's how it's pronounced. Nova Gem Cutter. This year for Christmas, missed that, but here we are. You're welcome. Close enough. I just want my name mentioned in the Pencast feedback section. Nova Gem Cutter. Your name is official.
Or Novage.
Novage
Cutter.
M Cut ER. I don't know. Okay. Well, there you go. Congratulations. You're officially mentioned. I would also like to know what smaller manufacturers still make their nibs in-house. I love Bach and Yovo, but I really enjoy the unique feel of small batch nibs. I think small batch. I think like
this is an
bourbon
interesting
or like some other like small batch of like candles or I don't know like
this is an interesting question because small batch when you're thinking about the fountain pen industry, like this is not a big industry. Like
No,
the
not
fountain pen
really.
industry overall, so it really depends on your definition of small, because there are a lot of even the bigger fountain pen companies are small compared to a lot of other companies. So it really depends. If you consider most of the companies that we sell like large companies, and you're talking more about like independent, non-retail companies, then the first one that comes to mind is Franklin Christoph. They're a very independent small business ran out of North Carolina in the U.S., and they do use Yovo nibs to my knowledge, but then also to my knowledge, they can customize a nib upon purchase. So if you go to their website, you can actually select from a long list of grinds that an in-house professional will take care of for you. So the business end of the nib is the tipping material. And if you're having the tipping material customized for you at purchase, that's as small batch as you're probably going to get. So the rest of the nib, it's, it begins life as a Yovo nib, but after it's customized, it becomes yours, or it becomes, their specialty nib in a lot of ways. So that would be the closest thing I could recommend to you as a small batch, nib. But really, I can't think of any small companies that make their own nibs in the fountain pen industry. That's just not a thing. It's too complicated, too expensive.
It depends what you consider small, like you said.
Yeah, it really depends. Now, Brian and I have both been to the Aurora factory. Like he mentioned, we saw them stamping the feed and everything like that. Aurora, even though it is a big company or well-known company throughout the fountain pen industry, the actual facility itself, not that big. It's not a massive company, despite the fact that their name is pretty well known within the fountain pen circle.
Even number of employees, I can't remember exactly how many they had. I want to say 80 or something like that.
Yeah.
In the grand scheme of things, that is a very small company. That's a small company. Yeah, when you consider most other industries, yeah.
For sure. But they do make their own nibs. And the amount of people that are involved in making their nibs are very few people. We're talking maybe 2 primary people and then a rotation of a few more, maybe. It's not a massive operation. It's their gold nibs that get made in-house there using machinery that's been at the factory for a long time, and there is a lot of handwork that goes into that. The tipping is as done by hand as it could be. It's not automated like some of the big fountain pen factories like Lamy, but it's probably as hand done as you could expect from a major fountain pen manufacturer. So I would say that that's probably the best bet if you're looking for a 100% made in-house nib from start to finish, from the gold stamping to the iridium alloy tipping and the polishing. Like Aurora, they do it all, and they do it well.
Yeah, I think it's funny because I was actually just listening. I listen to all kinds of random stuff on like podcasts and YouTube and all that. I was listening to some stuff about just like economics, because I like to, understand.
I dabble in economics.
I dabble in some of these things. But it's the whole concept of like, should you try to make everything yourself? Or should you, specialize and focus on, making something really well yourself and then getting other things from others. I think there's a lot of specialization that's happened, obviously in a lot of manufacturing, but in the fountain pen world, given that it's mostly smaller manufacturers. So it makes sense that you would have, a small group of people who specialize in making nibs that are then, essentially provided to most of the other pen community. And then the people that are, manufacturing pens, they're focusing a little more on design and some of the other aspects of the pen making. And essentially not everybody's sort of having to reinvent the wheel and create nibs. Because let's be honest, there's only so much new stuff that is being designed around nibs these days. It's a pretty well understood science and concept and stuff like that. In fact, most of the, like Stipula makes some in-house, Aurora makes their nibs in-house, and we've seen some others as well, Lamy and all that. Most of them have some pretty specialized equipment that has either been antique or like from the 40s and 50s and stuff like that is just not made anymore, and it's like very manual to make them, or they're somewhat mass produced on machines that are adapted from other industries, like the automotive industry or something like that. And they're using it, tweaking it to make it. And then there's a lot of kind of handwork that has to be done in some of the more final stages. So I kind of like what Drew's talking about, where, not everybody has to make like a completely unique nib, because essentially there's a lot of waste in that process, because there's so many specialization things, so many tools, so much know-how involved in the design of a nib, where you're just recreating things that have already been figured out. And then your costs are going to go way up for a given pen because you're paying for that small company, that small person to learn and do something rather inefficiently. Whereas a company like Bach or Yovo can make them way faster, much more reliably, and the
consistency is a big part too.
Huge issue with nibs.
Huge.
But I think even when you have them more or less mass produced, there's that kind of magic element of the tweaking and tuning and kind of the hand adjusting element towards the end of it. And every manufacturer that we know that is making them to whatever degree, or even tweaking them, adjusting, custom grinding, whatever. Basically, the final steps, if nothing else, is all handwork. So it's all super specialized knowledge, handwork, and it's just amount of time and effort spent in doing that handwork. So even when you have the more mass-produced stuff, you know, the stainless steel nibs, if you're trying to get something very, very affordable, you're going to get less of that handwork. And so you'll see some more inconsistencies. But if you're getting something that's like a gold nib or something, you know, a little more expensive, then pretty much you're going to get something that's got a lot of handwork done, at least in the final stages. And that's going to have a lot of its, you know, kind of stamp or final touches and tweaks per manufacturer, because they're the ones doing kind of that final work. But in terms of like total new nib design, I mean, it's cool and it's kind of novel, but it's not just the nib, it's the feed and how it matches up and the grip, and it's got to fit in there. There's so much that has to be redesigned. It's basically like completely putting in an entirely new engine in a car. You know, it's like, okay, if you come up with a new model car, do you really care that much like how one engine is to another? If you're really just trying to get from point A to B, you care more about like, how does it feel and how many cup holders does it have? And does it have whatever plug-in stations for your kids' iPads so they don't scream in the car when you're going on long trips? Like, those are the things that probably matter more to you than like, oh, this engine was designed for this car, unique from the model 2 years ago. It's like, if you have something that works really, really well, take it, tweak it, adapt it to fit into your new model, but you don't have to reinvent it every time or let somebody else make it. I see this a lot in like, you know, big equipment. I'm doing like the tree work and all that kind of stuff. There's like a couple manufacturers that make the engines for some of these machines that people use, and they make them for everybody and whatever piece of woodworking equipment, you know, same kind of deal. It's like one or two companies that are manufacturing most of this stuff, and it's basically different colors and labels, and then some of the accessories and the final steps are what make them different from each other. But basically, a lot of them are being made in the same factory. So it's not like that in the fountain pen world, but there are certainly components, nibs being one of them, where it makes way more sense to produce them at scale with somebody who specializes in making those nibs, as opposed to, you know, a small independent manufacturer making all their own nibs from scratch. And then that would take like all their time, and they would have no time to make pens. You know what I mean? So there's a fine balance to be had there. But I think that's why you don't see a lot of small manufacturers making nibs, is because it just doesn't, the payoff's not necessarily there for the trade-off and the cost. And you honestly probably wouldn't get a better product in the end most of the time, because those that have figured it out have really figured it out pretty well. That's what I got to say. Sorry, that was your question.
All
Drew.
right.
That was your question. I totally just...
We shared it, Brian. It's okay. We both had good information.
We drew late.
But this next one,
we drew late it.
There we go.
All
right. This next one comes from Long John, perhaps silver. I don't know.
I don't know.
Does he have a missing leg? That's true. Maybe he's trying to
Long John demonstrator over here.
Okay. Anyway, Long John asks the simple and easy to answer question: why do feeds have fins? Are they a throwback to the early days before cartridges, converters, and piston fillers, etc., or do they serve a purpose in the modern day pens? The reason I ask is because my Pilot Falcon and Sterling pens don't have fins, and they write flawlessly. Also, when I fill a pen with a finned feed, I always wipe the excess ink with a paper towel. Additionally, I dab the ink out of the fins so that no extra ink will make a mess inside of the cap. Am I just wasting ink when I do this?
Okay. There are several questions in this question. 1, 2, 3, 4 different questions that I'm seeing. Basically all fins are blah, blah, blah. Basically all feeds do have fins. I'm not going to say exclusively, but basically they all do. But you can't always necessarily see them on the outside. I'm just going to pick up a couple of random pens that I have here. I have a Pilot Explorer. Drew is a fanboy of this pen, and it uses the same feed as many of the Pilot pens, the Metropolitan and the Plumix and Kakuno and all these types of things. This one's kind of interesting because it almost has fins like the other way. It's kind of like indentations kind of going the long ways instead of across. You know, like if you have the TWSBI Eco, for example, that has a little more of a traditional fountain pen feed situation. It's got the fins going. It's basically cut into essentially the bottom of the feed. It's very visible. You can see it when you ink it up. You can see there's ink sitting in those fins. Pilot doesn't have that. It's relatively flat. Lamy is the same way. It's got the little Lamy like swoop on the bottom. So it doesn't have those exposed fins. But you know what? Here's the big, deep, dark secret. If I pull, I'm trying to see if I have one of these that's not inked so I don't make a huge mess all over the place. But I don't know if I do. So I might just make a mess. Whatever. Okay. So if I pull this out and get the ink off of it, you will see deep hidden inside the bowels of the grip of the pen. I don't know where Drew's going. He can't hear me right now though, because he took off his earphones. Drew's funny looking. He smells really weird. And oh, hey Drew, welcome back.
Did you say something
Been talking
nasty?
about normal things? Nope, just talking about my feed.
Rascal.
So if you look in here, oh gosh, this lighting is not helping me out.
Hey Brian, look what I did.
What'd you do? Did you do the same thing?
This is the feed.
Do you have a Falcon? Is that what you're doing? You showing off?
I do have a Falcon, yes.
Okay, fine. Let's see if I can adjust. Boom. Look at that. Inside the grip, you got all those fins. They're there. They're hidden. They're just not exposed. So bottom line is they're going to be there on pretty much every pen. You just don't be able to see it. You just don't always see them. So what are they doing? They're essentially acting like a regulator. So as we were talking in the first question that we started out with today, when you have an ink channel, that is basically your main transport. That's your, whatever. That's your water main that's coming from your water plant. I don't know. I'm trying to go with a metaphor of a water system, and I clearly don't know what I'm talking about. So anyway, you've got your ink reservoir. The ink channel through the feed is your main pipeline, bringing all that ink down to the nib. Well, the problem is that ink channel, it's not going to be able to stop and start flow maybe quite as easily. Or if you're writing really fast and then you stop and then you're writing really inconsistently like you do when you write letters, that is going to need to be regulated. And you want to have essentially a kind of a holding place that can have ink right there at the nib, ready to go, so that when it needs it, it flows well and is right there. It's a little harder to do that coming straight out the channel out of the ink chamber. So all those fins up inside there, it's just holding ink. That's all it's doing. It's just holding ink, and it's ready for you when you're ready to write. And as you're writing, the capillary action's working through those fins, and it's all kind of flowing in, going in through your feed, at the surface of the feed where the nib mates up to it, flowing down your slit of your nib and coming out the tip and onto the paper. So it's drawing everything that's all hanging out right up underneath that nib, and it's ready there for you. If you didn't have all that, you would probably have a lot more flow issues. You'd probably have a lot more burping issues and things like that, but you would probably have more issues with it writing dry and stuff like that. And even if it flowed well without any type of, feed fins or anything like that, as soon as you have any type of blockage or anything like that in there, or you write with it for a little bit, it kind of dries out, you would just the pen would dry out probably in hours, maybe in a day or something like that. You would just have a lot more problems. So they have those fins in there so that you have a holding place for all that ink that's sitting there right there, ready at the nib. I think I've said that 7 or 8 times at this point, so I can probably shut up. But basically that's what it is. So depending on, can you see the fins? Can you not? How many are there? That all depends on physics, and that all depends on how it's engineered, how it's designed. It's going to be different from pen to pen, and that's why some pens write differently than others with different ink and different nib sizes and all that, because there's a lot of variables at play, and more than I can even explain. And so it's fin feeds. They're essential, but you don't often have to think about them because they just work.
That they do. I will also say, just as a PSA, I was looking in here my spare parts in my pilot drawer, Brian, where I have this random Falcon feed. I also have 2 sadly cracked to bejesus and back 823s, man.
Oh no!
Don't unscrew the grip section.
Oh, are these ones that were sent? These are these ones that were sent back to us?
Oh yeah, they're totally ruined. Like you're talking like, look at this thing. There's a crack probably like 1 inch long right there. I don't know if you can see it. It's gnarly. Don't unscrew. This is not a unscrewable grip section.
No.
Don't do it. Even if it seems like it's okay,
it's not.
Your pen gon' crack.
Yeah.
It's not pretty.
Crack kills.
So
pens.
Yeah. It does. So sad to look at. I didn't even know they were there.
That is really sad.
Anyway. All right. That's it, Brian.
Somebody's going to want those pens now, Drew.
I need them for parts.
I need them for parts. Sorry, they're not available.
I need all the parts.
Yeah. Now I have ink all over my fingers. I'm actually pretty happy about that, except I'm wearing a white sweater. So I'm like, I cannot touch my sweater because I will get teal ink on my sweater. Anyway. We do have a couple of lightning round questions, Drew.
All right. Yes, we do. And we're talking 10-second answers, Brian.
I can't do it, Drew.
Yes, you can. I believe in you.
I'm going to try. I'm just going to talk
believe
really
in
fast.
you.
Okay.
All right. We've got 4 lightning round questions. The questions themselves will not be 10 seconds, but our responses will be, because Brian has made a New Year's resolution to be more definitive when it comes to objective nonsense.
No, that's an unauthorized resolution.
Yes.
That is an applied, unauthorized resolution.
I'm going to impose a resolution upon you. Okay. Okay. Lightning round question number 1. Our friend Alan says, once upon an old Q&A, Brian said that green pens didn't sell well, which shocked me because my favorite color is green. Now I see a bunch of excellent pens on the site. Have you seen color preferences change over the years? Brian, 10 seconds.
Okay, I'm actually going to set a timer for myself. Okay.
Yes.
Set a timer of 10 seconds. Okay. Ready? Do color preferences change? Whoops, I set it for a minute and 10 seconds. Hang on. No go. Okay, 10 seconds. Okay, yeah, color preferences change, just like they change for appliances and rugs and clothes and cars. Colors change, and green is more popular now.
Beautiful.
There we go. I did it.
How many seconds was that?
It was 10 seconds. My alarm just went off.
Nice. All right.
Okay.
Sounds good.
All right. Drew, John asked, oftentimes when writing, I pause to think of my next sentence with my uncapped pen in hand. This can sometimes cause an occasional dry start. Are there some inks that are less prone to dry starts?
Yes, there are, John, and it's called Private Reserve Infinity Ink. Give it a try. We sell samples.
Ooh, 6 seconds, Drew. You're on point. All right, let's do the next one. Let's see if I can do. I put 3 large bullet points for this one.
Yeah, good luck on this one. All right. This one is super simple too, dude. I don't know why you like. Anyway.
All right, I'll give my answer, and then I have to give like a little disclaimer caveat at the end. Okay.
Yes, the disclaimer does not count toward your 10-second allotment.
I'll say the thing, and then I'll say the disclaimer at the end. Okay.
Okay. All right. Rob asks, here's a question for Brian as a fellow Hokie. What are the best inks to match Virginia Tech, Chicago Maroon, and Burnt Orange?
Okay, the maroon, I think there's not a great perfect match, but Monteverde Gorilla, PR Vampire Red, Noodler's Red Black, Diamond Oxblood, or Salo Magno Ume. Crap, I didn't make the time. Okay, well, I'm going to just say the oranges anyway, because I need to answer the question. The oranges, Colorverse Martian, Monteverde Citrine, Monteverde Fire Opal, or PR Orange Crush. I feel like the oranges are a lot closer to the burnt orange. The maroons are either like too red or too brown.
How hard would it be for you to just pick one maroon and one orange, though?
Well, I was trying to give options because not everybody likes every brand or every color. Some are, small quantities, too expensive. They don't like the bottle. So I was trying to give variety. I could have pared it down a little bit, but seriously, the maroons, I don't feel really great about any of them.
Oh.
But anyway, so my caveat is way back in Goulet pens before we sold any fountain pen things. I actually I officially licensed Virginia Tech pens when I was making them by hand. I had to get special insurance, I had to pay licensing fees, and all that stuff. So my caveat is, everything we're talking about here is completely unofficial. Nothing is licensed. There is no Virginia Tech anything. They actually have the colors licensed, Chicago Maroon and Burnt Orange. So there are no colors that we have that match those exactly. I'm just taking inspiration from your question and mentioning things that happen to be similar colors, should you choose to match them. But if you're talking any officially licensed like sports teams or merch like that, they can be rather litigious, and I really don't want to get sued. So I'm not going to officially say anything about any of that. But if you happen to want to get colors that may be close for whatever reason, these might be some that are there for you. All right. Drew, you're just like Mr. Hop Out a Seat today.
That means I don't have my ish together at all.
Okay, fair enough. Are you ready for the next question, Drew? You ready?
Yeah, man.
All right. Lori asked, I recently bought a traveler's notebook to use for a planner /notes /etc. for the new year. I know Drew uses a traveler's style notebook. I'm assuming Brian does too. I'd love to hear how each of you use yours, what refills, their purpose, etc. in 10 seconds. Good luck.
All right, we can both have 10 seconds on this one.
Okay.
All right, I wish I had more of a rhyme or reason to this one, but I don't. I have personal stuff that I just write down to remember but don't intend on keeping, and businessy, officey, leadershipy stuff.
There you go. Okay. I use the regular size travelers. I use Goulet notebooks in them because I like the paper. I have 3 notepads in them. One is dot, one is lined. The dot I use for work stuff. The lined I use for personal. And the third one is the one that is replacing the one that is most full. So sometimes it's dot, sometimes it's lined. So right now I think it's lined because I filled up the other lined. So I replace it with the next one. And then once I fill up the dot, I'll replace the filled lined ones with the dot, just so I have the ones that I've most recently referenced on hand at all times. So there you go. That's how I use it.
All right.
More than 10 seconds, but whatever. We did okay. I think we talked.
Not bad, Brian.
We talked more about how we were going to time it and do all that stuff than if we had just answered the questions. But it was fun, right? It was fun.
I think you did a great job. I was very proud of you.
All right. We have a tip of the week segment for you all. This is a super easy and probably very obvious one for many of you, but I was lazy and didn't feel like doing a lot of work on this one. I'm just kidding. No, it's a very basic one, but I do like it a lot and use it all the time as someone who doesn't clean their pens very often. So my little tip is if you have a pen that's been maybe sitting around for a little bit, having a little hard time starting or something like that, you don't really feel like cleaning it out because the pen's still half full and you don't feel like going through all that, you can basically prime the pen up again and get it flowing. It's easy if you have a pen that's either a converter, that's especially a piston style because you have a lot of control over that, or if you have a piston filling pen like this TWSBI here, basically, have a paper towel, tissue, something like that to put under it, because you can definitely have too much come out and get it all over the place. But basically you just draw it down. So you just, let me not get it all over my keyboard. So you just like twist it down a little bit with your nib pointed down. Watch it very carefully. This is where it helps to have fins on your feed, because then you can see when your ink is coming down. Let it sit there for a little bit and then just kind of draw it back up. And you're basically priming it back in. That's if you're on the go and you don't want to deal with like dipping it back into the ink bottle or whatever. So you can sort of get it primed again. If you have a pen that you can't do that with easily, say you have a vac filler, or if you're using cartridges or something like that, you can take like a small little cup of water. You can just dip it in the water. Basically you're resaturating whatever ink may have dried on your nib or your feed. You can do it that way. You can run it under a little bit of water, but then it kind of goes everywhere. So I like a little cup of water better. Some people, I know this sounds gross, but they will actually like lick the tip of the pen to get it going again. I do not advise doing that, but that is an old school way to do it. And yeah, oh my gosh, I got ink on my desk surface quite a bit. I'm gonna have to clean that because it's really bad. I now have dark blue and teal ink everywhere. Wow, that's really messy.
Brian.
Okay, made a big mess.
And you're wearing a white sweater. Be careful. Don't lean up against it.
It's because I'm wearing a white sweater that I'm making a mess everywhere. Okay.
Oh, God.
Yes.
You gonna have barbecue for dinner?
I might. Spaghetti. I'm thinking spaghetti with meatballs.
Oh, God.
There was one other thing that I thought I wanted to say, and now I'm not sure I'm saying it. Oh, yeah, you can just dip it back into the ink. If you have the ink bottle, you can just dip it right back into the ink bottle, wipe it off, and you don't have to actually like refill it again. Or if it's really bad, you can dump a little bit of the ink, assuming it's the same ink, obviously. You can actually unscrew it, fill it back up, kind of refill it. That will kind of reconstitute it again and get it flowing. And you might be able to buy yourself some more time before you have to clean out your pen, which I'm all about. Because I don't like cleaning my pens as often as Drew does. I do like cleaning my pens. I just don't often. I like doing it. I don't want to do it very often. Does that make sense?
Yeah, like that's kind of like me and any
like,
social activity.
Yeah, exactly. It's like I don't want to leave my cozy house and get in the car and go drive to this party. But once I'm there, like I like the people there and I'm really having a good time. And then I don't want to leave. But I don't, it's the momentum thing. I don't want to just go and get started cleaning my pens. But once I do, I'm like, oh, I'm cleaning like 40 pens. This is happening. So yeah, it's just more how I roll. Anyway, that's my tip of the week.
There we go.
All right. Now on to the more nonsensical portion of it, where we aren't talking about anything that has to do with pens mostly. So Drew, what is happening in your life?
Well, Brian, a lot happened in my life since our last Pencast.
Yeah, it has.
I was one of the unfortunate people on planet Earth to have a visit by the Omicron demon. So, my wife and I got COVID, and it was a thing. It was more of a thing because it happened over the Christmas holiday, and we were stuck in the house for a couple weeks, and trying to distance because we have a 7-year-old at home. First, my wife got it, so we were kind of trying to distance from her a little bit, and then I realized that I had it, so we were both trying to not be near our 7-year-old on Christmas Day, which was just symptoms were oh my god, it was awful. It was absolutely awful. Like, she basically had flu-like symptoms. I had I'm still coughing. I had cold-like symptoms. And then, but Archer, he was fine the whole time. He never, no symptoms. We got him tested, totally fine. So he had a much more recent vaccine than she or I did. Ours were back, almost a year ago now. She got hers in January. I got mine in February, and the second one in March. So we were supposed to get our boosters the day she found out she was positive. So we had to delay that.
Of course.
Yeah. So, but he was a champ. He was good. It just sucked having to spend Christmas morning that way, not being able to hug him, as he opened his presents and stuff like that. Luckily, we had all of our shopping done, but it was the safety procedures, trying to balance, taking care of him and making sure he got fed while he had to be home from school too. And also his school was out. This was during Christmas break, but his after school program or his summer program, whatever it turns into depending on the time of the year, they were going to keep the kids over the winter break, and they had bouncy castles planned. They had a game truck coming by. They had an activity for every day, and he was so excited for all of it, and he had to stay home for 2 weeks and not do any of that. And, so I gave him a couple early Christmas presents. I gave him those things that I eBayed. I gave him the Mighty Max that I got on eBay. I gave him the Power Ranger Zord that I got on eBay. So he loved those. So I was trying to make it good for him. But, it sucks either way you put it. But yeah. I know I'm not alone. I know that, many of you have been through a similar situation or know somebody who has. It's an unfortunate time of year to get it. But I count myself among the fortunate because our symptoms were, never put us in any harm, but, just trying to be safe and, make sure my family stays safe. But it sucked. It definitely sucked. Yeah. But, we did got to play around in the snow a couple days ago after we all got better. So that was fun. It's here in Central Virginia. We got, a, good amount of snow. It was snowman, efficient, so we got to do the snowman thing. My wife and I finished the second season of Witcher, which we were very, very excited about.
Nice.
Really, really liked that. I bought some more 80s VHSs.
Did you now?
Yeah, well, I measured my shelf, Brian, so I know now how many I need to fill up my shelf. So I took, I VHS measured the rest of the shelf. So I needed to complete the list that I had previously done, but then I need to add 2 more. So still thinking about that. But I'll let you know when I finish. Don't you worry.
This is like when you buy a pen case. You're like, well, I have 8 pens. I'm gonna go ahead and buy the 20 pen case. That way I have room. And then you're like, wow, that 20 pen case sure filled up quick, didn't it? It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
It's like yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And then my son got Super Smash Brothers for the Switch for Christmas, so we played that a lot.
Oh, well, so Joseph tells me it's called Smash. That's what the kids are calling it.
That's what the kids call it. Yeah, we played Smash. We played Smash quite a bit. But none of that matters, Brian, because today, on my lunch break, I went to Bojangles. And that was glorious. Okay. And now I'm just
what did you have at Bojangles, John?
Oh, well, Brian, I got the 4-piece Supremes combo with a little pouch of Bo's special sauce and sweet tea and fries, of course, because that's just what you do. And I went a little nuts because I had a gift card, Brian. I did.
What little magical fairy might have given you that gift card?
Just a friendly friend. And I went and I got myself a Bo-Berry biscuit as well.
I was going to ask if you got a Bo-Berry biscuit.
Because the combo already has a biscuit. So if you go Bo-Berry on top of that, you're in Biscuit Town and you're committing.
Is there a problem here? I'm hearing nothing but good things right now.
It was no
Regular
problem.
biscuit and Bowberry biscuit. They are two very different biscuit experiences.
Yes, there's dessert biscuit, but you know what I did? I did eat the Bowberry biscuit before the regular biscuit.
Oh, really?
Because I didn't want to not be hungry enough to eat the Bowberry biscuit. It was a strategy.
Okay, fair enough.
Yes.
Fair enough.
So I ate the Bowberry biscuit. I'm like, do I want regular biscuit now? Yes, I do. So I ate the regular biscuit.
So Drew, when you were a kid, would you be the one to like eat the food that you liked the most on your meal first? Or did you like to save it to the end so that you end on the favorite, thing, whatever it is?
Generally, I want to end on the favorite thing. However, if I'm not confident that I'm going to be able to eat all of the favorite thing, I will stop and make sure that gets done. I will leave room because I want to make sure that I can have as much dessert as I am allotted.
Yeah, see, I've never had that experience. I will force it down if I have to.
I know you will.
There is not it doesn't matter how much I've eaten. If I've had that favorite thing left, it's getting eaten.
No,
stomach,
even if it makes you sick.
Yeah. No, it's funny because Rachel and I have, so we actually keep a list of quotes going around our team members and even like our personal family and stuff. Just like, you all have like hilarious family things that you say and that get brought back up.
Like seals can do whatever they want.
Yeah, maybe that'll be in there. I don't know. So we have one that Rachel said that was specifically about Bojangles. We don't eat there often, but when we did a long time ago, we were eating our meal and Rachel is not like me. She will not force food down her gullet just to make sure that she gets it eaten. She will stop in the middle.
I don't think most people are like that.
I don't know. This is all I know. This is all I know in my life. It's probably why I weigh as much as I do. But anyway, so Rachel specifically about it wasn't the Bowberry biscuit. It was just a regular Bojangles biscuit, but she was basically strategizing eating her meal because she said, and I quote, "I want to end on a biscuit." And so that has become a very frequented phrase that her and I both throw around. That's basically like, I'm saving the best for last, or like,
I love
I'm going to
it.
make sure that I time it and like end on a high note, like George Costanza, like leaving on a high note. That's like Rachel's ending on a biscuit. So
I love that quote. That is
great?
brilliant. Like I want to have like a motivational poster
I feel
with
like that
on
could
there.
Be a t-shirt. Like I want to
end on a biscuit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Make sure you end on a biscuit today. Like
That's right. That's right, listeners. End on a biscuit.
It's like if you're going through some hardships, if you're having a rough day, just end on a biscuit. Find your biscuit and end on it. Nothing else matters. Just like all that COVID stuff, it doesn't matter because I had in Bojangles today.
There you go. That's like a chicken soup for the soul remember that little book, like big, popular in the 90s and whatnot?
Oh, yeah.
It's like a phrase from that. Make sure you end on a biscuit. Page 47 or something. Page 84, end on a biscuit. Boom.
It's bow time.
You're welcome, chicken soup people. Publish that all day long.
Chicken soup people.
I don't know. It's a thing, right? Like they have a lot of chicken soup for the whoever books. Like it's like
You're welcome, chicken soup people.
It's a whole thing. It's like a whole franchise. They have like 80 of those books. Chicken soup for teenagers, chicken soup for kids, chicken soup for, everything. It's crazy. It's just chicken soup everywhere. Anyway.
What's happening with you, Brian?
Are we done talking about you? Okay, let's talk about me. Clearly I have no shortage of words today. So, I've had some fun. I've had some major computer issues, which is always a blast, especially timing it around the holidays when there's a major COVID spike and there's like nobody at any of the computer places to help me. So I won't go
There's nobody at any of the places.
Yeah, right. I won't go into any great detail, but I'm working it out. I'm on Rachel's like old computer from 2015 here, but it's working. I'm making it work. But like my computer, I'm dealing with it. It's fine. I'm taking care of it, but had a lot of extra time and drama spent with that. We've been at home with our kids quite a bit. They were home for 2 weeks on winter break, and then we got a big snowstorm, and now they've been home for 3 days. And we're supposed to possibly get more snow tomorrow. So we're going to see if they have school at all this week. They might have a 3-week winter break, which they're totally fine with. But, we're like trying to work and actually do some things. So, their electronic devices have been raising them mostly during the day, and that's fine. We got to do what you got to do. But I'm just kidding. We're making time with them. They're playing out in the snow. But yeah, we don't get a lot of snow in Virginia, and I'm kind of glad because I'm like, yeah, third day of this, I'm like kind of done with it and over it, and it can go away now. Like, I want to see other things besides just ice and dirt. Okay. What else? We had Christmas. Lots of fun things were happening. Lots of Lego, lots of arts and crafts things, lots of beads. Ellie loves making bracelets and craft things. Yes, Drew, do you have a question?
I do. I have a professional.
Go ahead. You're so courteous.
I have a professional curiosity about Legos at Christmas, Brian.
Okay.
Because Santa doesn't bring all the presents, but he usually brings one.
Okay.
Because, homeboy needs to know that mom and daddy bring in the presents.
Oh, absolutely.
Anyway,
okay.
Santa brought Archer the biggest Lego set he has had thus far. It's a big, 3-in-1 build, but it's a pirate ship or a pirate cabin or a pirate skull island thing.
Sweet.
Yeah, pretty cool. But he chose to build one of the other builds, not the primary build. So the instructions didn't go bag by bag.
Okay.
So
right.
He is completely overwhelmed. He cried. He doesn't know where the parts are. I tried to color code them, to make it easier for him to find, but he just doesn't even know where to begin.
Okay.
Do you guys have a strategy on how to attack big honking builds?
I mean, we've attacked some big honking builds before. So
do you use muffin trays or something like that?
I will often muffin trays are not bad. I like to use small bathroom cups, like those little 2-ounce cups,
oh yeah, little Dixie cups.
Yeah, ideally, if you have maybe not surprisingly, I have some that are like a translucent blue color because that makes me happy. But if you have clear ones, that's even better because then you can see through the side of the cup. Or if you have small glasses or something like that, whatever you got, I would maybe use glass for kids, but I don't know. Archer seems responsible enough. But if you have basically small plastic cups, that can be great because you can reuse them obviously over and over again, but then you can separate things out. But honestly, what I end up doing with the kids most of the time, especially if they're kind of overwhelmed, it's a big set. I do the grunt work. I will pour out all the pieces. I will search and basically find the pieces and I'll sit next to them and we'll make it together, but I am picking all the pieces out and basically giving them exactly the pieces.
That's exactly what we ended up doing. Yep. Okay.
Because then he gets to do the most fun and satisfying part. And you're taking out all the frustration,
Yeah. And it basically was just I would when he'd open the booklet, I would start sorting out pages and I'd put a clump of parts at each step and he just, I'd try to keep up with him.
Yeah.
But now he won't do it by himself. He's like, well, it was so much easier with you. I'm like, okay, I guess this is what we're doing.
I wouldn't worry about that too much. As he gets older, he'll grow out of that and he'll be less reliant on you. Don't worry that you're gonna have a 30-year-old in your basement wanting you to pick out all his Legos. He'll get more confident about that, or you'll be busy and he'll be like, I don't feel like waiting for dad, and he'll just go do it himself one day. That's how it was with our kids.
That doesn't bother me. I just want to make sure I'm got the optimal approach, and I know you and Joseph have experience on this.
Yeah, Dad, many times. Yeah, many times. We would do that with Joseph because he was kind of particular and would kind of he wanted to actually build the thing, and so that was fine. Ellie, she would have no problem just getting in there and just getting it done. She would just give it heck, and she often wouldn't want to wait for me, so she would be finding the pieces, and I'm like, all right, fine, go ahead, do your thing. So depends on the kid, but yeah, I would just try to minimize the frustration and just make it fun for them as much as possible, and then they'll grow. They'll grow into it. And as they get more competent, they'll have more fun sorting out the stuff. But yeah, if you end up building all 3 of those 3-in-1s, I will be shocked because I don't think Joseph has ever built all of the alternates of any of his stuff, because he'll build it and then I'll take it apart and then it just absorbs into the abyss of his collection. And he has, it's so sad. He has some magnificent sets that are now just sucked into his room like a black hole that get picked apart. He's got the Lego Millennium Falcon in there somewhere. He's got Benny's spaceship from the first Lego movie.
Those Millennium Falcons are worth hundreds of dollars.
Well, it wasn't the original one. It was the newer one. It was still pretty cool, and it's all in there somewhere probably.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to bring up painful memories.
It's one of those things that as a person who collects things,
Yeah.
It is difficult to have children who maybe don't like, and I'm literally like, okay, the friggin' Lego movie, it's got the dad who's got everything organized and like won't let his
I know,
kid
I don't
play with
want to
it.
be
And I'm
him.
like, I can't be that guy, but I'm like finding myself like, I've got to bite my tongue because
I'm the same way. I'm the
absolutely
same
want to
way.
just glue this thing together and never let them take it apart, but I can't do that because then I'm literally the bad guy in the movie.
I know. I know. That Lego movie is a cautionary tale for Lego dads.
Oh, it is. It is.
Don't be this guy.
Yeah.
Don't be the Craggle dad.
Yeah, but I have my own Lego Technic, and my kids know you don't pull apart Dad's Technic. Like that's like we've been able to draw the line. The kids have their Lego stuff, and it's a hot mess. My stuff, I'm like, no. I keep if I build the alternate kit, I put the spare parts in a bag that's labeled with the number for it. Anyway, one hack for you, Drew, that can help with the whole like trying to build it at the same time thing. Because you know what'll happen is he'll be building something and he'll be like on the end of a page and you're like, I can't see what's coming next. And then you'll flip the page and you'll be like, oh crap, I got to find a bunch of pieces. And he's got to sit there and wait for you. And then he gets frustrated because he's waiting for you. So you can actually download like digital copies of most of them onto a device. So you can have it on your device and sort of be working ahead a little bit. He can have the book kind of more in front of him. That way you're not kind of tripping over each other. But if you work out of the book too, it's fine. You can just be patient. But little hack there that I've come. Or like if both kids... Oh, that's where it really gets fun. When both kids want to build at the same time and I have to like project manage the situation because I'm like, okay, I will find the pieces. Joseph, you assemble the like subgroups and then Ellie like adds it to the thing, like adds it to the bigger thing that's being built.
Yeah.
And that's how we're going to like assembly line this thing. And of course, then they're working twice as fast. So I'm like, frantically trying to find all the pieces just to keep them like fed and interested. We did that a few times and it's fun, but that's a little more stressful as the parent trying to keep both of them entertained, and then they kind of fight and I'm like, all right, fine, switch. You two switch it up, Anyway.
All right, well, we'll probably slice this out for
Lego parenting hack. Yeah, there you go. Okay, what else? Let's see here. We got our kids some like just really small RC cars. They've never had like RC cars, and they were Mario themed, so it's like a little Yoshi one and a Peach and stuff like that. So they were driving those things around outside and having an absolute blast, and I'm like, great, more batteries I get to manage in my life. That's awesome. So, and you have to like unscrew the thing out and then take it and then remove the battery from the device and then charge it and all that. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, this thing is like, why can't I just plug right into the device? Just leave the battery in there. It would be so much easier. Nope, there's no light, there's no nothing. So I got to like super project manage the batteries. Anyway, the kids love it. They're having a blast. And then it snowed and they haven't been able to drive them anyway because there's ice everywhere. You look like you want to say something.
I'll say it to you later. We no need to take up more time. I've got a solution for you for the RC thing.
Ooh, okay. Fair enough. Let's see here. Ellie had her birthday, so that happened since the last time we did Pencast. Yes, that's definitely fun having her birthday right around Christmas time. So it's like, it's a whole thing. And Joseph's will be coming up soon here in January. So like we have everything happening in this like 1 month period here. So yeah, that was a lot of fun. That was happening like right as Omicron was starting to like really kick up and hit the news. So we got to be nice and paranoid about all of the contacts and everything. That just kicked up everywhere and it was kind of crazy. But anyway, did a piñata and all that kind of stuff. That was pretty fun. Though I will say we were going to do the limbo, but somebody actually stole our limbo bar. So we couldn't do the limbo. I mean, Drew, how low can you go?
What do you... Oh, God. Oh, God. Oh, you snuck it in there.
Yes, I did.
Oh, my God, you monster.
There was no limbo.
It literally says on the note, someone took our limbo bar. I'm like, that's really messed up. I'm like, I have questions about that.
Yeah, no one...
And
I heard that and I was like, oh, I gotta save that for Drew. So
and it's right in the middle too, you monster.
You're welcome. I put thought into where I was gonna insert that into this Pencast, so you're welcome. You're welcome, everyone. Take that. Use that as you will.
My aunt got Archer a joke book for Christmas too, man. You don't know how much I've been suffering through this nonsense.
Yes.
Oh God.
I feel like I'm
it was so much
I feel like
more-
I'm on
it
the
was-
dark side, just like absorbing your anxiety around these jokes.
You have no idea how much more painful that was because I didn't see it coming. Like normally,
Yes.
like, hey, I've got a
Yes.
joke. I'm gonna say a dad joke in this company meeting, but this
No.
one, you're just like, it's like you're getting punched,
That's
but
right.
like you know the punch is coming, so you're like, "Arr!"
That's right.
But this time, it was like,
That's right.
I'm upset. I'm upset
Muhammad
now.
Ali on that situation right there.
oh,
Stung like a
man.
bee.
Oh God.
That was a rope-a-dope dad joke right
Stop.
there.
No, that doesn't. No. You were the dope, sir, for that joke. Oh, I can't even.
Oh my gosh.
I'm gonna go to bed.
Let's see here. What else? I did complete my car stereo, as we talked about earlier. When I say car stereo, I mean giant subwoofer. That's all it is, because that's all I really care about. So for any of those that are even mildly interested, I didn't go nuts. So I did kind of go nuts. So
Yes, you absolutely went nuts.
okay,
You said you're.
contextually for the 37-year-old father of two, okay, yeah, I probably went a little nuts. But when I compare myself to my 18-year-old self, it doesn't seem so drastic. I had two 15-inch subwoofers in like a Saturn back when, and it wasn't even my car. It was my sister's car that I borrowed for a little bit. But I bought them and stuck them in the trunk of a Saturn. That was a little overkill. Now I just have one 12-inch subwoofer. For those interested, it's a Kicker Q7. So it's a Q Logic. It's a sweet subwoofer. It's square. It's a square subwoofer. It's kind of cool.
Didn't know they made those.
They do. It's a Kicker thing. Anyway, so one 12-inch subwoofer in a ported box with a Rockford Fosgate power amp. So I have 750 watt RMS power to that sucker. And it's a tiny little amp. So like I was used to these like really big pieces of equipment from 15 years ago, last time I was into this. Now everything's a little more compact, a little more efficient. So I'm running it at 1 ohm resistance, and it hits pretty good. I actually measured it because I was able to find my old, and it looks old, Drew. You will love the retroness of this sound level meter. Here, I'll show it to you, Drew. Look at that.
I do dig
look at
that.
that logo, the Radio Shack
That's
there.
nice.
Yeah, that classic kind of look. So I was able to sound level measure, hit 122 decibels, which is, this thing only goes up to 126. So almost maxed it out there. That's very loud, by the way. If you're curious, very loud. Almost like there are firearms that are that loud. So it's about as loud as a 22. So, but it's like more or less continuous. So I do not listen to it that loud. That's just, I wanted to see its potential. But anyway, it's very loud. And the funny thing is, Rachel does not care at all. She's like, it's one of the biggest eye rolls I've ever gotten is this whole project. But the kids, when I have it like very, very low, they're like, oh, wow. And I turn it up and they're like, no, this is scary. And I'm like, just you wait, you'll love it in a few years. But as I was going before we were recording this, I was like, let me like actually measure how loud this thing is. So I told the kids, Rachel was out in an appointment or something. I told the kids, hey, I was like, hey, I'm going to go out. I'm going to test the thing. It's going to be kind of loud. And Ellie doesn't even look up from what she's doing. And she's like, that's okay. We're used to it. And I was like,
I have a feeling Ellie's
Oh
going to be the
my.
one with the giant sound system in the car.
yeah, she's like, I mean, she's kind of ambivalent about it. Joseph is like very reserved about it. He's not into me turning it up too loud. Ellie's a little more like, ooh, this is kind of interesting, you know. But anyway, we'll see. I don't know. I'm kind of like you, Drew. I'm just very used to the people in my family rolling their eyes and being interested only like to like 3 sentences in on whatever it is I'm passionate about at the moment. And then they drop off a cliff and I'm like, okay, I gotta find somebody else to talk to about this who actually just cares.
I will give Shannon credit. Like, you know, I'm always very interested in the things she's interested in because I'm just a naturally curious person. I just want to talk and learn and ask questions all the time to the point where it's probably annoying. But every day after there's a big UFC event that she knows I watch, she summons the courage, the energy, the discipline, and the lovely wifitude to say, how are the fights? And every time I'm like, oh, thank you. Okay, so here's what happened. And I go and I see her face
You
like
see the life force just drain out of her. Like, why did I ask this?
Okay, now which one is that? Okay, oh good.
Yep.
But she still asks, and I really really appreciate that.
Yeah, that is really cool. I think Rachel's beyond the point of asking me because she knows I'm going to tell her anyway. So most of the time I don't even get the in. I'm just like, I come in, I'm like, Rachel, let me tell you about what I'm doing. And I just go right in, whatever.
Yes.
Probably rude on my part, but anyway. Let's see here. Yes, snow, rain, lots of mud. I found that I need to do some French drainage on parts of my property. I basically found, so like my driveway is kind of curved. Like I've got like a turnaround point in my driveway. And I was out one night and we had heavy rain. So I was actually able to observe like the flow of water as it was draining. And I found that there's probably a good 1/4 acre of land that is all flowing to this one point that goes right beside our garage. And I'm like, now I understand why I can't grow any grass on this hill, and it's constantly muddy because every time it rains, there's like a torrential waterfall of water just flowing like a river. And I've never seen it like that before. And I was like, okay, I think I probably need to address this. So that's fun. That's a project that's in my sights now. And then I came in and told Rachel about it, and she's like, I don't care about French drains.
I don't need grass on that hill anyway.
But she appreciates that I know this stuff and do it. Yeah. And then just like end of the year stuff, we've been thinking about Goulet pens and what videos have done well, what haven't. It's been a whole year of COVID kind of again, lots of remote shooting. Who knows when we're going to be back in the office shooting together again. So just kind of reflecting and thinking like, what is this coming year going to be? Not really having any clue, but thinking about that. So we're definitely open to feedback on what kind of videos y'all like. Think we'll keep the Pencast thing going for a bit here because we're having fun with it, if nothing else. And we're going to mix in a lot more of the videos that we've been doing lately, some more intentionally planned. And so we're tweaking, getting better at those, but just really thinking about that as the year is kind of coming to an end and we're thinking about the year ahead. So lots of strategic planning kind of stuff on my mind. And that's pretty much my personal situation. My family's had a lot going on in general. Not going to get into any details, but that has consumed quite a bit of time and energy, like extended family and stuff, as well as immediate. So, just been doing that. Again, that's all like personal stuff. So I don't want to get into that without people being okay with us sharing it with thousands of people. But trust me, there's just a lot going on. So yeah, but it's all good. Here we are, 2022. How about that? All right.
And almost 30 episodes into a show that we didn't plan on doing at the beginning of 2021.
Yeah, I guess not, huh? We kind of just like dreamt this up.
Yeah.
Yeah. How about that?
How about that?
That's a good point. I didn't really think I have no concept of time.
At the beginning of 2021, we did not plan on, hey, you know what we're going to do this year? Let's start a weekly show.
That is very true. We had no idea what was going to happen, what was going on. And you could argue that we still have no idea what's going on. I think that could be said. All right. That's our personal lives. Moving on to our company updates. So we've got, obviously, Omicron is kind of all over the place. It's really kicked up in the last several weeks across the U.S. Definitely,
you don't say.
Definitely in Virginia. Yeah. I mean, kind of, here you go, firsthand, right? Thankfully, we have good procedures in our building and all that. We did recently change some of our masks so that we're having N95 or N95 masks just to help, because masking and distance seems to be the big thing that can actually help. So we've had that going continuously, but now the quality of the masks that we're getting is even better. So yay. I mean, none of this is fun, but we're all kind of in it. So I've spent just a tremendous amount of my own time dealing with all that. It wasn't just you, Drew, but like a lot of people, especially around the holidays, lots of people seeing other people, going to gatherings. And so, I mean, everybody's been in this so long, they're kind of like, okay, we're just kind of living with this. At some point, we have to still actually have a life. So we have to learn how to kind of live with this kind of thing. But then like so many people had potential exposures and all these other things where it was like, oh my gosh, okay, yes, it just happened really suddenly. So there's a lot of that we're kind of dealing with. Thankfully, all is well and safe in our building. And, those who did have situations are recovered and stuff like that. But still, it's like, still a very present, very disruptive part of what's going on. And so just mad props to our team, especially the ones who are in the building every day, getting y'all's orders out, receiving, all that kind of stuff. So many disruptions, not just on the health front with all these other things as stuff's unfolding and we're still navigating all of the, ever-present changing stuff with Delta and Omicron and all these variants and who knows what's on the horizon. But, everybody still really cares a lot. They still want to do right by you all. And largely we are getting done what we need to get done. So not without our disruptions, but I'm still super proud of our team. They're doing great. And
I think it's also worth mentioning real quick that, I don't think anybody envies you or any other small business owner for having to go through the staffing challenges that this is creating. Like we're already dealing with, staff shortages in the world, and Omicron has, obviously introduced a whole nother variable.
Yeah.
But, anybody out there who has either been impacted by this or is in a management situation, either, a general manager, or if you're in retail or food service, I'm sorry. We appreciate you. Just keep on doing what you're doing. We're also in a small business. We understand the challenges, but it's different for everybody. But
it is tough.
It's rough.
Everybody's been in this for so long. I mean, here we are going on 2 years of this now with some pretty serious disruptions. I feel kind of bad because it's really stressful. I care about all of our team. I care about our family, friends, but it's like everybody in especially our local area, a lot of that's kicked up. And so it's like, everybody's talking about it, the auto mechanic, the literally grocery store clerks, it's in conversation everywhere, and just, I'm having to read articles. I'm having to talk to all of our teams and individuals and work all these crazy things out as stuff changes pretty constantly. So, yes, it's not like, yay, I get to wake up and make tough decisions based on limited information with big consequences. Yay. But I mean, that's leadership, but also, it's, I feel kind of bad because it's like, there's other stuff that I want to do. I have ideas. I have, things, cool, fun things. But sometimes it's either the day runs out and I'm like, what did I even do today? I just read a bunch of stuff and talked about things that are totally uncertain. And I don't know, what value did I add today? Some of that just happens with parenting and leadership and stuff in general. But, it's like, I would love to pound out more videos, or I'd love to pick up new products or design new things. I'm like, I just don't have any gas in the tank, after dealing with it. And then you throw a major ice storm. I mean, we're 3 days into this ice storm that we've had. We still have 2 team members that are stranded. They have no power and they cannot leave where they are because the traffic is so bad on the highway. They literally can't leave. We have one team member who's out of the city and literally can't travel back. And we have somebody else who had power lines, live power lines and huge trees, fall across the entrance to their neighborhood. So they cannot get out of their neighborhood and they have no power. So it's that is happening on top of everything else. It's just this is kind of crazy. Yeah. So as long as things seem as minimally disruptive as possible to you all, our customers, as possible, great. And as long as everybody's safe, as long as we are still able to get done the most important things that we're able to get done, cool. But wow, is it crazy times. And it's man, welcome 2022. Here we are, just right out the gate. Big old ice storm, biggest we've had in a long time. You're welcome.
But we know that a lot of you out there are in very similar boats.
Yeah.
And, we're with you. We appreciate you, and we're thankful for all that you do.
That's right.
And we'll keep on doing our thing if you'll keep doing your thing. How about that?
There you go. All right, Drew. Let's get this thing wrapped up. What is on your desk, Drew? Do you have anything on your desk?
Cobwebs, because this is the first day I've been in the office for 2.5 weeks.
I was gonna say you had the Blue Lamy All-Star on your desk that we used and I didn't even know why.
Yeah. No, for real though, nothing really. I did get an interesting opportunity to. I ran out of here as soon as I found out that my wife tested positive. So I grabbed a bunch of stuff, but didn't grab everything. Didn't write with fountain pens at all. I didn't have hardly any opportunity to write or any fountain pens to write with. So they stayed here. So I started writing with them, and because I had my 3 fountain pens here, and the TWSBI ALR in Prussian blue wrote immediately. 2.5 weeks of no use. Perfect writing. The E95S, perfect. The Edison Ascent took a little bit to get going, but then wrote perfect. And then I was like, you know what else is over here? I don't know when we did the preppy pen of the week, Brian, but it was probably over a month.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And I'm like, you know what? I wonder. This thing wrote immediately with 0 hard starts, 0 skip. It was flawless. So when we reviewed this, I said I thought it was a little toothy, wasn't my favorite thing. I said I'd rather have a Varsity. I gotta say, the value you get with this spring-loaded cap, that's amazing. That really is amazing. And this is, writing with the the standard black cartridge that it came with. So this impressed me, man.
Yeah.
But then, as far as my other pens go, I think it's ready for. I'm ready to completely change out my inks. I want to go with a more seasonal approach. So I'm thinking either I'll try some of the inks that came in the 2021 Diamine Ink Event calendar, or I'll go back and use some samples from the Blue Edition series from Diamine that was pulled from the original 2019 Ink Event calendar. So I want to do a like Winter Miracle, Jack Frost, Noel, all those not Evergreen, the pine tree sounding one, whatever that was. So I don't know. I want to do some like wintry inks. So gonna do that this week. But so that will be what's on my desk soon. But still getting back into the swing of things right now.
Very cool. All right. What's on my desk? I got a bunch of junk on there. It's kind of a mess. We had some family come down. Rachel's parents came down for Christmas time. So I don't know how you feel when you have guests come, and they're not like nitpicking what our house looks like or anything like that, because at this point they know what they're getting. But just me personally, I'm like, all the crap that I have everywhere. Like, there's just going to be more people around. We need more surfaces available for everybody else's stuff. So it's like, all right, my personal desk, you're going to get all the junk that I have left all over the rest of the downstairs of the house, and it's all getting piled up on you. So now I have this just gigantic mess of stuff there. Plus, I've had all these computer issues. So I have the computer there with all these other hard drives and other things that I need to back up and make sure I have all these things, because I'm probably going to have to send my computer in and it's going to get wiped and had parts replaced and stuff like that. So I'm dealing with all that. So it's kind of a rat's nest over there. So my actual pen usage has been more limited because I've just been dealing with other junk. But, I kind of want to get back into it a little bit more, because I did do some, because I've had some like doctor's appointments and other things. And so I've brought stuff with me and been able to write with it, but not like sit down and write and like, let me actually experience this writing. But it's more like, okay, I need a pen. Like, what has ink in it? Let me grab it. Where did I put that? Oh, wait, that bin is over there that has the pen, and it's like, that's the state I've been in for several weeks now. So I'm just looking forward to getting back to a state where, well, you have guests and it's like there's all this extra work, because it's like, I got to get the guest bed ready. I got to do this and laundry and towels and all this other stuff you got to do. And then everybody leaves and you're like, I'm really tired. But, we're kind of just like back to normal now. Like just a bunch of things, like a bunch of memories were made. Great. And we have pictures and all that kind of stuff. But then it's like, time has just sort of passed and it's like, okay, now I have to go and clean up and do all these other projects that I needed to do. But
that's why I want to do the new inks. I want to get just like excited, jazzed up about writing this week.
Yeah. I will not be able to do that because my life is still just nuts, but I'm just going to appreciate the precious moments that I get with the pens that I write, because it's ever present on my mind. But I'm a human just like everybody else, and sometimes life demands more of you, and even the very enjoyable things that you like to do, you have to set aside so that you can do other things for other people. And I'm just very much in that state right now. So while I'm not in a state where I can sit down and just really take the pleasure in on my pens, the desire is still there. And so I know it will always be there for me when life settles down just a little bit, and I will cherish the moments that I do get with them. And on that note, I think that's going to land the plane for us today, Drew. So there's episode number 28 for you all. Thank you so much for watching this extended version, as we wanted to make up time. We intended to shoot an extra Pencast in here, and now you know why we couldn't, because it's basically all.
I was at home. I did bring all my
I
did bring all my stuff home with the intention of shooting it.
But we realized that
I had a
his internet connection was so slow. Sorry, I totally interrupted you, but
garbage connection. I also forgot my little.
I think it would have taken something like 35 hours for you to upload the footage. Or something like
and
that.
I forgot my little dongle too, the thing that I would need to plug the mic into. So
you got to hang on to your you got to hang on to your dongle, Drew. You got to keep track
I forgot
of
my
that.
dongle, Brian. Yeah.
That is actually what it's called, by the way. And any attachment to your computer is called a dongle. Anyway, sounds funny. We didn't just make that up. It's an actual technical term. Anyway, we thank you all for watching. Please leave us some feedback in the comments. We clearly like it. And ask us questions that we can answer on future shows, because we're going to keep doing this thing. We're going to be in a quasi-regular format with unpredictable disruptions thrown in there from time to time. But you can also check out gouletpens.com for all of your fountain pen, ink, and paper needs. Be sure to like and subscribe and comment and share on YouTube and Instagram and all the other places where we are. If you want to email us, especially if you're listening to the audio Pencast podcast, Pencast, you can email us at pencast@gouletpens.com, and we will look at it from time to time. And I don't have a super duper timely, topical, random fact to share with you all, but I have a quote that I think sums up how I'm feeling about, since you talked about all leadership stuff, I was like, oh yeah. So the quote that I have is from Claire A. Murphy. It says, "The problem with being a leader is that you're never sure if you're being followed or chased." And I think that that can feel a little too real sometimes.
Yeah.
But we got to keep it lighthearted. Anyway, we're having a good time. Starting out 2022, we're going to make lots of good videos for you all. And we're still just so grateful to be doing what we're doing. And anybody that's still watching this 2 hours in, y'all are the champions.
You're the turkey hammock people.
You're the turkey hammock people. That's what we got to say. You're ending on a biscuit. That's what I'm saying. Right now.
Yes!
Right now you're ending on a biscuit. Anyway, thanks everybody. We will see you on the next one. Right on.
Ending on a biscuit.